Hello, everybody. Ralf Tomandl again with the DSO Leadership Summit. I'm here with our guest today, Alan Schwartz. Alan is the co-founder of the great company called DSO Data Connect. Happy to have him on our podcast today. Looking forward to exploring what his company does and how we have found them and what we're doing with them at our DSO Leadership Summit this October in Austin. Welcome, Alan.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. It's a pleasure to be here. So
what I want to do, Alan, is have a conversation for our podcast listeners and viewers to go over a couple of talking points that are around the findings that you have made and or the information that you have uncovered in recent trends with the business that you're in. But I also want to highlight your business and give a little bit of a background about the DSO Leadership Summit for those who are either new to it or haven't gotten an update yet on what we're trying to achieve this year. So for me personally, obviously very exciting to partner with Alan's company. For those of you who know me, I'm a data geek, and it is in Alan's company's name, right? Like so DSO Data Connect is a data aggregator and a company that provides, I think, tremendous value to an industry that is lacking access to data like this. So obviously, for me, falling in love with this business was very easy. So now you know why we're seeking out a partnership. But before I go any further, Alan, you and I had actually connected a couple of weeks ago where we started talking about what's going on in the industry, what we have found and what you have found, and I wanted you to go over that first. So if you please.
yeah, absolutely. We, as you mentioned, DSO Data Connect is a data company, and we were formed really out of a problem. And the problem was we had companies. My business partner Jim Chevelle and I were working in dental media, and we had companies coming to us on a regular basis saying, "How can you help us with understanding what's going on in the DSO space? More specifically, who are the DSOs? Who are the dentists that are practicing at the DSOs? How much of a percentage of the overall market is the DSO? And how do we connect?" There was a real lack of quality data and understanding of what was happening in our market. And so we decided that there really was a need for a data source that not only was accurate, but was updated on a regular basis, was cleansed, and would grow along with the marketplace. The data that you're referring to, the trends, really is accumulation of data that's taken place between March 2021 to March 2023. We had started in November of 20, but there was some startup time and to really get a foundation or a baseline of data. And then now that we've had 24 months, we've been able to take a look back and really get an understanding of kind of the growth rate and the pace of what's happening in the market, right?
Yeah.
So most of the data points that I'll share today are from that window of March 2021 to March 2023. And I'll just throw out some interesting ones for you. In that 2-year period, we have identified, added to this system, and certified 800 new organizations. Now, when organizations, it's important. Our definition of a DSO is any organization has 3 or more locations.
Yeah.
So now there are a lot of different definitions out there. There's a lot of different ways people are looking at this space, but we had to draw a line in the sand and say, we are going to track all organizations that have 3 or more locations.
Yeah.
regardless of business model. Just this morning on LinkedIn, there was some pretty interesting exchanges from different folks on what is the overall market. But here's what we've learned in 2 years in terms of the groups. When we first started in November of 2020 now, we launched this with 1,400 organizations that had 300 locations. But in March of 2020, in March of 2021, we were up to 1,800. So in 5 months to get our baseline, we're at 18 organizations. That jumped 27% in 1 year. And then in March of 2023, we're all the way up to 2,600 groups.
Which, like, when I saw that statistic, Alan, I was floored, right? Like, that is, I have to tell you, is, and look, I think that you already acknowledged it. We can absolutely talk for hours on the definition of what is a DSO versus a group practice, and who tells themselves they are one and they are not. This is not the place for it. I think that we can all agree that the baseline of a multi-location dental practice, 3 or more, is a place where usually an owner dentist either steps away from the chair and or jumps into a more business leadership role when they're attempting to grow. The fact that there has been such a tremendous growth in the last 24 months in a period where overall there has been such a turmoil in the industry, right? Like, where there has been like a mass layoff in March of 2020 because of COVID, and then a rehiring and a desperate need to figure out how we can hire more people. The fact that there are, granted, potentially being self-identified, but also there is a trend towards what I would call either consolidation or the acceptance that growth by partnering and or having more than one location is the way forward in this industry, was stunning for me to see. I mean, that number is tremendous. 800 new DSOs in the country in the last 24 months is just an incredible data point.
And the interesting thing about that is the indicators are it's not going to slow down, even with maybe some economic headwinds and what we're seeing in inflation and shortage of money and that kind of thing. The reason I say that is the lion's share of these groups are in what we had to break them down in our own, we call small and emerging 3 to 9 locations.
Yeah.
We call mid-market 10 to 75, and then anything 76 locations plus we call elites.
Yeah.
The lion's share of our groups are the 3 to 9 location. And it's been interesting to see that over the 2-year period, how those are growing, and then we'll get acquired or moved up into the mid-market, et cetera. But there seems to be no shortage of the 3 to 9 locations coming into the space. And one of the things that we do is we track 2 location practices, because as you can imagine, we ask the team, find everybody with 3 or more. We're tracking 2 location practices. And so we're about to come out with some data that's going to show over this last 2 years how many of those 2 location practices have now moved into the 3 to 9 and
interesting.
Forward.
Yeah, I think, look, the one of the takeaways that is obviously to me not surprising, and probably to you also not really surprising, is like the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well, and it is fully accepted in the industry itself, and it is something that is also supported by the industries that they need in order to grow. Right, like from the support in M&A to banks to liquidity to all the other support systems that need to be aligned. Shout out to us. Obviously, I'm the CEO of HR for Health. HR and staffing is probably one of the most important engines to drive success and reach goals. So obviously that is why we're driving in that market as well. But it is really great to have a reassurance in the data that you found, right? Like, so fascinating data point.
Well, I will kind of an interesting side note that is right to your point in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit and the land the land rush, if you will, that's going on is that we're now tracking 121 private equity firms
Yeah.
in our dental space
Yeah.
that we've directly connected to over 265 organizations.
Yes.
And that number is growing on a pace equal to the growth in the groups themselves. So it's very, very interesting.
So I think that is the second data point that I also found fascinating, right? Like there is a marketplace out there for entrepreneurial drive to start businesses, right? And in healthcare, there is a layer of, is it protection or is it assurance? I mean, look, business is business, right? Like you have risks in any business, but I'm going to say if you're a private equity firm, having or the willingness to lend to a dental office with a proven track record of earnings and revenue streams that are more traditional, let's put it that way, than starting up a new whatever banana delivery business, whatever it is, right? Like where there's a non-proven is definitely a safe harbor for a lot of PEs that have monies to invest. And I think that what you hear when you ask private equity firms and or also for that matter venture capitalist businesses, they still have billions of dollars of dry powder, i.e. money to invest, that they're looking to place in places where they get a healthy return on investment. And dental and DSO is the place to do it in. So that your data proves that out.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And, as we looked at the growth of the organizations, we also looked closely at a couple of other areas that are indicators or will really give us an idea of the growth, and not only the growth, but what percentage of the overall dental market is being touched by the DSO, right? I mean, my background, I've been in dental media for 35 years. And most recently I was actually with we helped the American Dental Association with their publishing platform.
Yeah.
So being affiliated with the ADA for 15 years, we always had a real good grasp on what the total universe of the dentist market was, the dentist population, if you will. So when we looked at this time frame, one of the questions we get a lot is what percentage of dentists or what percentage of the overall market is the DSO touching? Well, one indicator is the dentists themselves, right? So the ADA tells us that from the data in the 2-year period that we're looking at, that there was 202,000 active licensed dentists registered in this time window. Now that's a little bit deceiving in that of that 200,000, we know that about 190,000 of those are actually practicing dentistry. They may be licensed, but they may not be practicing. And of that 190, 160,000 are chairside 30 hours plus.
Okay.
And when you look at that, we are actually tracking in this time window, remember March 21 to March 23, we're tracking 51,000 plus dentists associated with a DSO. And let's be real, a DSO associate most likely is going to be 30 hours plus chairside, right? And so, if you take that easy math, right, that's 25% of the most active dentists right now in the marketplace are associated with a DSO.
Right. Yeah, which is incredible.
Yeah. We get asked that all the time, what percentage is, and we can't definitively say it, but what we're hoping is now as we progress and grow, we can share where it's going and what the growth trend is. So.
Yeah, I mean, one of the obvious conclusions is it's going up, it's going bigger, it's going wider. Which again, look, I think that there's a growing understanding that this industry needs to have that type of a growth engine in order to provide access to care, right? Like I think this is something that myself, having been in this industry in an auxiliary function for the better part of 25 years, sees this, right? Like the ability for a dentist to spend 30 hours with patients and not just 20 hours with patients and 10 hours on their business is a true win for the patient, i.e. more access to care, right? And there is a business case made for that. Hence why these doctors who see this go, I have to team up with 2, 3, 4 other people in order to have a better ability to service my own business, my own employees, but my community, the patients in my community, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that is what your data proves out right now.
Yeah, no, and that's a really good point. You know, I think what everybody wants and should want is the best possible care for the end user, the consumer, right? And I think everybody, that's the one thing everybody would agree on. And I think early on, years ago, this was seen as maybe a threat to that. But actually, what we're seeing is it's actually improving that very thing. So it is exciting from that standpoint to see this happening. So
yeah. Excellent. Any final data points that you wanted to share?
I think the other big one is, we talked about the growth of the groups themselves. We talked about the kind of the ratio of dentists involved. The other one is locations. And this was a really fascinating data point for us, because everyone we talked to had a different idea with how many office locations are there in the U.S. Now, being in media and dental publishing all these years, we always had a figure between 100 and 120,000. I'd be curious what your team shows on this. As we were preparing this data, we said we really need to try and bring together 2 or 3 great data providers to see what the consensus is. And shocking, it was kind of shocking to me. We found that it's 130,000 office locations in the U.S. And so when we looked at that, in this window, we could identify 22,000 office locations that are DSO related of that 130. However, we had another 6,000 reported locations that we didn't yet have contact data for.
Okay.
And so, and just this morning, I got some research back from our data team that we're now up to, now again, this is outside the 2-year window we've been talking about. We're now up to 40,000 locations reported, meaning when we find a group and we identify how many locations they have, that's reported. We also track them for ones that we actually have contact data for that physical location. So reported number of locations now, we're up to 40,000, which is a very large number, and we're at just at 36,000 with actual contact data. So
wow. No, it's mind-boggling, right? Like it's the growth we see there, and the drive behind it, the energy behind it to open new locations and or making sure that they're maximizing their exposure is truly incredible. We use you as your data, as our data, by the way. You said it'd be interesting to see what you find. We find nothing. You find for us. Hence us partnering with you.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. So I want to spend a couple of minutes on, I hope that if you're still listening to us and are watching us, you find this data and this information interesting, or as interesting as Alan and I do. Obviously, we have a passion for it. You are being given a small glimpse into what we talk about at the DSO Leadership Summit, right? Like why coming to the summit, why partnering with Alan's company. This is why, right? Like we want to bring this type of data, this kind of information in much greater detail to the marketplace, because we feel strongly that people like Alan and the DSO Data Connect team have information that you need, right? So to give you a couple of more specific examples, the DSO Leadership Summit this year will have an M&A workshop that starts right on Thursday, where a lot of this data will be filtered through investment bankers and or other company and or industry insiders that can give you their information and or their swing of things on that, right? Then there's other things that we have done in the past. We're repeating. One of them is our speed dating event that is all around technology solutions. So it's the high-end technology solutions that you need in order to grow. Things that you need in order to successfully go from 3 to 5 to 7 to 9, et cetera, or from 20 to 25 to 30, because all these problems happen. One thing that I'm personally really excited about is a CEO panel with the leading AI healthcare businesses, where they are discussing how AI will affect the healthcare, but in particular the dental market. So a CEO is someone who has ideas and visions, and getting 3 of those guys on a panel that are all in the same industry took some wrangling, but I'm proud to say that we have found a topic that they're all passionate about and that they will share. The other thing, last but not least, obviously, is that in all seriousness, this industry is also facing real problems, right? Like rising employee costs, employee turnover, the general staffing shortages, right? Like how to staff for these types of things are a big part of this year's event. To have industry experts, to have leading data scientists that want to talk this through with you to see what you can do. So very excited. I know we've talked about business. Obviously, it's also about having fun. For those of you who have been with us over the past couple of years, you know that we are partnering with a company called Group Dentistry Now. It is, in my mind, one of the best businesses out there that runs a platform of information. Just like Alan's company does data, they do publishing and or talk about what's going on and keep people involved or informed. So they will have an award ceremony Friday night for the emerging groups to watch, which Alan just told you there's 800 new ones, right? Like so there's a bunch there. Obviously, we will send you and or have information on this on the summit. It's October 12th through 14. It is in Austin, Texas. Why Austin? Austin is awesome. Number one, it's a great place to go. It's a lot of fun. But it also, as Alan will confirm, has the most DSOs in the country by a country mile, right? Like there's over 250 DSOs in Texas alone. So obviously we go where the market is. So we will attract. Final thought, you guys, we're selling out, right? Like we always sell out every year. This event I know is 5 months away, but don't wait. Sign up. We will always sell out, and this is no different. Alan, any final thoughts? Anything that I didn't cover? Anything you want to share?
No, I'm excited to go back to Austin. Austin I only went there the first time a couple of years ago, and it was terrific. So I'm very excited to go back. And just on the awards that the GDN folks put on, that was really a highlight last year. I thought it was really, really well done. The venue was fantastic. We really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to it. So. Yeah,
Bill Newman is a treasure. We love having them and value them as a partner. So this is a great thing. Alan, I want to thank you on spending your time with us today and giving us some insights. As you can tell, he's as I mentioned before, as passionate about data as I am. Find him, reach out if you have questions before the event, but he will be at the event, obviously, with his partner Jim. And we will make him accessible and available to you for any additional information. with that said, thank you very much. Come and find us in October. Alan, have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Ralph. Take care.
All right.